Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch man, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees, I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in the cage, I'ma let out the wake up, get out the sheets. We came for one man.
Well, it's been 9 long months since the Miami Dolphins played real football. No preseason crap, no practice, no intra-squad stuff, real football. The time for wondering, the time for rankings, the time for all the BS that goes on during the off season is officially over. It is game week. This week, the Miami Dolphins traveled to Los Angeles and will take on the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert. Been looking forward to this game for quite some time, and now it's here. It's game week. Time to get it on. No more worrying about personnel and trades and rumors. We know who the roster is, and barring an unforeseen change, this is going to be the roster that the Miami Dolphins move forward with. Hallelujah. It's about time. Let's do this. Let's effing go. Let's see what the Miami Dolphins are all about in this 2023 season. So with it being game week and with it being a rather short week due to travel, let's check in on Mike McDaniel's press conference today and see what he had to say about the guys being ready for the Los Angeles Chargers.
I think last year, the Chargers probably were the first team to have a good deal of success against Tua in your offense in terms of stopping in the middle of the field. He was 10 for 28, as you know, in that game. How much have you thought about that game over the last 9 months? And without obviously revealing any game plan things, are there things that you feel confident about that you can go to sort of counter that Brandon Staley plan that had some success last year?
The Brandon Staley plan.
Okay, the Brandon Staley plan. He had to smile there. Now understand, this is a question that Mike McDaniel can't possibly touch. He cannot tell them what he's done for the last 9 months to get ready for this game, and there's no way he's going to say it at a press conference that everybody can see. So whatever answer he gives here is pretty much going to be the standard coach BS. Take a listen.
That it definitely comes up over the course of the off season, at least 1/17 of the time.
He's referring to 1 of 17 games, so 1/17 of the time. But we all know it's been 9 long months since he's been on the field. I'm sure he's looked at that game film over and over and over.
You know, divvied up amongst the other games, but no, there's things you learn. You always have to be careful about making too many absolutes. A lot of times there's those are game specific situations, whether that your health, the opponent's health, where you're at in the season, what you're good at, what you're bad at.
See, now, that to me is just one weird thing to say. As far as we know, the team was at full strength when they played the Los Angeles Chargers last year. So I'm not sure why he brought the factor of health into it, maybe just to deflect on his answer. But the team was at full strength last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Tua and everybody else played against the Chargers. Maybe not Terron, but let me know.
Bottom line was, I thought they did a great job last year in those two teams, last year's teams. They did one of the better jobs all season, but this is a new year, really, as the way I kind of look at it. You do learn certain things about individual players, maybe play calling, degree of tendencies. But, week 1 has a great way of kind of like equalizing that.
How? How does week 1 equalize that when you're basically bringing back pretty much the exact same roster except for, say, Trent Sherfield? Pretty much it's the same team facing their same team.
because you have all these things on your side of the ball, whether you're offense, defense, or special teams that you've been working on to unveil. So there's a little balance of that. We will be watching last year's game, but not with too much weight relative to the guys we have now. And
I heard that this morning, and he said we're going to be watching last year's game without too much weight because of the guys we have this year. And when I heard it, it immediately made me wonder, well, it's the same guys. Where are the different guys that you're talking about? Because how is it relatively different? It looks on paper to be basically the exact same team, except for, say, Mike Gesicki won't be on the field. So if that's the same team, how is that game not relevant to what you're putting on the field this year? Or, as I said, is Mike stalling and trying to deflect here because he's playing poker?
What we've been emphasizing this offseason.
Yeah, so I gotta believe that Mike was playing some serious poker there and said, I can't give you guys any information. Yeah, we watched the film. It doesn't really matter all that much. It's not the same team. When everybody in that room knows it's the same team. When everybody watching this video knows it's the same team. With everybody in the league knowing, hey, listen, you got the same offensive line, you've got the same running backs, you got the same wide receivers, you lost the tight end, but pretty much Durham Smythe is pretty much the same guy. So you're bringing the same team, same bodies to Los Angeles. What exactly has changed? And of course, he didn't want to talk about that whatsoever. Let's continue with this.
Maybe Ronaldo Hill can tell you everything.
All right, so one of the guys in the audience here mentions the new coach, new defensive back coach, Ronaldo Hill. Ronaldo Hill used to work and coach under Vic Fangio back at the Broncos. He also was the defensive back coach last year with, you guessed it, the Los Angeles Chargers. So by hiring Ronaldo Hill, he's hoping to gain some insight as to tell us what they did. Give us some inside baseball. Obviously, Brandon Staley knows he's been hired by the Miami Dolphins too. So we got the ultimate chess match here that's going to happen this Sunday.
That week.
I'm going through the motions this week.
Yeah, sure you are, Mike.
No, it was we obviously have Ronaldo on staff, so I think he's quick to jump on the sword and say all of the bad ideas were his and all the good ones were Brandon Staley's, or maybe it's the opposite. Who knows? But
look at his face. That face, that smirk, that Cheshire grin laugh is telling you that he did give, Ronaldo Hill did give Mike McDaniel's some information as to what they were doing, which is going to be worth gold if they can adjust accordingly. Understanding again that Brandon Staley knows that Ronaldo Hill is out here spilling the beans as well.
It's another connectivity spot that we have so many of them week by week in this league, but it's it was good information from last year. I thought they did a good job last year, and excited for this year.
It was good information from last year, and we're excited about this year. Again, I'm holding up the cards here. I'm not going to show you what's in my hand, but I do have somebody who's been able to peek in Brandon Staley's hand, and he's been whispering in my ear all off season. Hey, Mike, here's what we did to you. Here's how we did it. Here's how we jammed up Tyreek. Here's how we jammed up Waddle. Here's how you break that. But all of that is based upon what they did last year, and no way you're gonna know how Brandon Staley is gonna move his pieces on the board, knowing full well that Ronaldo Hill is in Mike McDaniel's ear. That's gonna be interesting to check out. So in this next cut here, he talks about who the QB2 will be, and for many people, it might be a little bit surprising.
Who's your backup quarterback and why?
And why? Well, no, this was a difficult one. Informed him late last week. We'll be going with Mike White as the backup to start the season. Feel super fortunate in our situation. It was kind of what we were hoping for. Is we've learned the hard way that you need available players on your roster just in general. And I thought Mike White and Skylar competed all.
Wait a second. Wasn't Mike White in the concussion protocol not available for like the last 2 preseason games? And he just said you need people available. That didn't make any sense. So hopefully there's another reason why he's picked Mike White as QB2.
The way until the last rep. And when it really came down to it, I thought they both made just cases. But for our football team and really adhering to exactly what a backup quarterback needs to do, they'll all be active each day, but to be able to understand.
Let me stop there. I forgot. Okay, that's really important what he said. They're both going to be active. The new rule in the NFL is you are allowed to carry 3 dressed quarterbacks. So he will have all 3 quarterbacks on the sideline for the Los Angeles Chargers, actually for every game.
Our system in such a short period of time that Mike White did, and the command that he exudes in the huddle, and you're solving an imperfect puzzle as a backup quarterback where you don't get any of the reps during the week and have to master your situation, your craft, repless. So I think relying on Mike White's veteran experience and really all the growth that he did this offseason made me feel pretty comfortable with that.
How comfortable are you as a fan with Mike White as the backup quarterback should something unfortunately happen to Tua Tagovailoa? I know for sure that I'm not. I don't think he's a guy that can lead this team if something direly does happen with Tua. I think if Tua goes down, the Dolphins are screwed. Completely screwed. Mike White's not the guy. Skylar Thompson's not the guy. And maybe they're going to keep looking to sign somebody. I had mentioned Carson Wentz a few weeks ago, but this is a precarious situation. They're all in on Tua. We already know that. They're all in on Tua. But Mike White and Skylar Thompson are your insurance policies. That to me seems like bad business. That tells me that if something happens, what are you going to do? You've got so much invested in, so much capital invested in this team, and you're turning over the reins potentially to Mike White. That's scary. That is really scary as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's continue.
Just clarify, you said all 3 will be active. You mean on game day or just on the active roster?
They are on the active roster. And there is a new rule where, so I guess I'm saying both.
Yeah, as I said, you can carry 3 quarterbacks throughout the year this year. So that's a big difference, a big change by the NFL.
Am I?
Yeah, because for the new rule, I guess.
Necessarily have to be on the game day roster.
Yeah, I guess I was saying both, but in light of the new rule, there's it definitely makes certain of it. But yes, I was saying all of the above and neither at the same time.
How were they successful at taking away the middle field last year? I remember at the end of the game, you seemed to have a real respectful conversation with Staley when you got. I don't know whether that was about anything about the game or
All right, so let me tell you what that question was, in case you can't hear it. I can't understand how a billion-dollar franchise doesn't have good microphones in the press conferences, but I digress. What he said was, what did you do after the game, after Brandon Staley and the Chargers shut you down last year? You seem to have had a substantive conversation after the game. What did you talk about? Now, obviously, I'm not stupid enough to think that Mike McDaniel's is going to tell this guy what he actually said to Brandon Staley after the game or what he's done to make the changes. So this is just going to be fluff, but for some reason fans glom onto this stuff and they don't really understand. There's really no way that he can answer this question to any certain degree.
It wasn't like they reinvented defense. It was more that their guys understood their issues in each individual coverage and really played in a competitive spirit. I thought there was.
So what you're saying is their guys executed and the Dolphins didn't. They didn't have any response to it. So whose fault is that? If their guys, if the Chargers defense executed and the Miami Dolphins offense didn't adjust, whose shoulders does that fall on? Well, obviously, that falls on Mike McDaniel.
A lot of 50-50 balls that went the way of the Chargers last year. And I just really thought overall that the team itself took that game with seriousness, and you could see a unit that was well coached and well schooled at the.
You understand what he's saying there? He said, here's a team that executed and was well coached. By omission, is he saying otherwise for his team? I mean, I'm a guy who listens to everything. I listen to the words people say when it comes out their mouth. And he's saying that they were well coached and they were executing. They did some things. Next thing, if I was in the audience, I would have said, hey, Mike, so what happened with your response? But of course, those kind of follow-up questions never come.
The opposing team's offense in this case. So I just thought they were very competitive and did a very good job challenging things that we were trying to do that particular game.
Okay, so that begs the question. Raise your hand. If your opponent did X, Y, and Z, and they basically beat you because they performed and executed X, Y, and Z, not a single reporter raises their hand and says, so why didn't you adjust? You have the same thing as they do. You have a halftime to discuss. You have assistant coaches. You got guys up in the booth. What were your adjustments? And if those adjustments didn't work, why didn't they work? But nobody asked those questions. I think they're afraid of getting their credentials pulled or something. But he left that sitting there like a big matzo ball where nobody asked a question. Guys, this is professional football. You are reporters. He just said the other team basically out-executed, outperformed, and out-coached me. Wow. So if they did all that, what the hell did you do? We'll never know, will we? We'll never know because they never answered the question. Actually, we do know they lost. And that's what's problematic is that what are you going to do different? Obviously, he can't say it right now. But come Sunday, we're going to have to see a completely different game plan so that when they take away the middle of the field, there's something else that they can lean on. Hopefully, the running game. Let's continue.
Don't expect to see Armstead today, but he's progressing well. Yeah, I think
Seriously? So as of today, as of the date of this press conference, Terron Armstead still isn't 100%. He is still not ready to go. Will he be ready to go by Sunday? I don't know. Mike, do you know? Will he be ready on Sunday?
I'll feel comfortable after today's practice being able to assess Wednesdays, and those are you really have to go day by day to guys that are coming back from injury, so you don't get ahead of yourself and start.
So tell me this. You guys knew that Terron Armstead is an often injured guy, okay? Just like a quarterback. You had the entire offseason to bulk up the offensive line. You also knew that Terron Armstead had surgery. It was quiet, it was kept hush-hush, but everyone found out that Terron Armstead had surgery. Here you are, 5 or 6 days before your first game of the season, and your most important player on the offensive line is still on a day-to-day basis. Watch the odds makers in Las Vegas right now, not knowing if Terron Armstead is going to play. Me personally, I think Terron Armstead, unless he's on crutches, will be out on the field. Will he be at 100%? I have no idea. Probably not. If you can't practice and you can't run and you're about to get on a plane to Los Angeles and there's not much you can do between now and Sunday, it's it. This is it. You got 1 or 2 days of practice. You got to walk through later in the week, and then it's game time, and you're going to be facing Joey friggin' Bosa. This is going to be the first of the major edge rushers that the Miami Dolphins have to face, and we've got a limping left tackle. That is scary, especially if it's just day to day. I mean, what happens if he can't go? What happens come, Sunday morning and they're like, yeah, he's not going to make it. He's not there yet. Oh, this team might get screwed.
Pushing them in adhering to a schedule that you made like last week.
How much fear does that put into you? As a fan, understanding this is Tua's first game of the season after not playing and getting knocked out of the box in Green Bay, and his number one left tackle, the all-pro left tackle, is still hobbled. That to me is probably the biggest news in this conference. I don't care about Mike White being QB2. QB2 and QB3 are pretty much interchangeable at this point, but you just told us all that your star left tackle is hobbled. That's scary. So let's continue.
The list of the team captains came out. Was that a player decision, your decision with the rest of the coaches, and how did you guys come up with the 7 names that are now the captains for the season?
So that's something that we do a player-driven vote that the locker room really comes up with, which is one of the reasons it's such a special honor to each and every one of those guys, because it's voted on their most important, on the most important really person of opinion in the building, and that's their peers in the locker room.
Okay, let's take a look at who the captains are of the Miami Dolphins for the 2023 season. So here are your Miami Dolphins captains for 2023. Tua, Tyreek, Armstead, Christian Wilkins, hopefully he'll be playing, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland, and that last one is Alec Ingold. So those are your 7 captains for this year. Tua, Cheetah, Armstead, Wilkins, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland, and Alex Ingold. So as you saw in that press conference, Mike McDaniel is a guy who plays his cards close to his chest. He doesn't say much, and you have to extrapolate information and understand what he's saying and then pull a little bit out here and a little bit out there, just so you can put together a complete story and understand what it is he is willing to say and what he's not willing to say. But now it's all said and done. It's game week. That's all it is. We got 6 days until the Los Angeles Chargers, when the Miami Dolphins hit the field, led by Tua Tagovailoa and facing Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley and those guys out there. So that's it, folks. It's game week. We got 6 days until the team hits the field, and there's no more conjecture. They're going to have to prove it on the field. Join me tomorrow for Tua Tuesday, where every Tuesday throughout the season, we talk everything Tua. Let's see what happens this weekend. Looking forward to a great game. I also will be broadcasting the game live, and I'd love for you to join me if you'd like to. Talk to you soon. Fins up.
Is anybody catching on to this Barry guy?